Hey, what's up guys? Dan here with my third update on my progress through the computer science curriculum at WGU. Since the last video, I've knocked out another couple of courses. I've also discovered the single most frustrating, absolute worst thing about WGU, so I'll tell you about that in a little bit. So somebody asked me if the courses I'm taking have been challenging. I'll tell you that some of them have. Some of them have been unnecessarily challenging. Has a lot to do with that problem I just mentioned. Some of them not so bad. I feel like they are getting progressively harder as I go. That said, since my last video, when I made the last video, I had just finished a C++ course. I had just submit the final project to the school. They had told me it was going to be 3 days before they got back to me with the grade. They ended up getting it back to me before I finished editing that video. It took about 3 or 4 hours. Since I finished that one, progress has not been as fast. The last 3 days I was stuck on taxes. Again, this problem I ran into is frustrating and slowed me down a lot. And after C++, I did computer architecture. I take a lot of notes. I always fill at least one notebook. That one was completely full, and this was a C++ notebook that I had a little bit of space left in the back of, so I just kind of make my mark and keep on going with it. That was the most frustrating class that I've taken so far at WGU. I'll explain that in just a minute. Next one I just finished, is Discrete Math 1. Discrete Math 1, something I didn't have any idea what it was actually going to be about. It was, to a large degree, a review of logic. A lot of stuff that got covered in the computer architecture course, actually. Toward the end of it, a whole lot of relations and graphs and things that I didn't really have any kind of background in. And some of it was just sort of a throwback to like Algebra 2. Fun class. Didn't have quite as many problems with the material as the computer architecture course, but that's what I'll talk about now. The number one biggest problem with WGU, by far, it's not even a secret. Everybody knows it. Anybody in the IT curriculum, we've got Facebook groups and things. There's Reddit pages, subreddits, or whatever. People talk about it. It's the course material for each class. Some of them use uCertify. Some of them use Pluralsight. Some of them, they point you to Lynda, LinkedIn Learning, whatever it's called, as supplemental material anyway. But the primary course material for probably most of my classes, I guess now, has been this program called zybooks. Let me show you. So this is my zybooks library. This is essentially the textbook for the course. This is the primary course material. There are no lectures that you're getting in addition to this. Every now and then some course instructors will have some recorded videos, not like anything comprehensive, but covering one or two little topics that they were noticing students having some challenges with. This computer architecture course is the absolute worst. To be fair, all these zybooks textbooks have their problems. They've all got typographical errors and things. They're all in need of editing. But this book is just miserable. It's absolutely terrible. I just feel like the publishers and the authors should be embarrassed that this thing is out here without proper editing. Here's just one example. Obviously, I was frustrated when I put this little screenshot together, but I'll zoom in here so you can see what's going on. This is a description of the structure of cache. There's a memory on top of memory. It allows you to have quicker access to certain elements in memory without having to go all the way to your hard drive or all the way to your RAM. There's usually some cache on top of the actual processor itself. Blah, 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 blah. It's a whole lot of detail you don't need. The point is this highlighted part right here. An in-way set associative cache consists of a number of sets, each of which consists of n blocks. Now obviously you replace the n with an integer, just like down here. The implementation of a 4-way set associative cache requires 4 comparators and a 4-to-1 multiplexer. Okay, so that's all well and good, right? This is 6.4, 6.4. So we're 6.4.8. This is the same page. This is a participation activity. They have these on every page. This is how you determine whether or not you are good on the material, whether or not you've learned it right and you understand it properly. Notice these two that are marked incorrect. A 4-way set associative cache requires blank comparators to compare the tags of each element within the set. Well, 4-way set associative cache requires X comparators. Well, the implementation of a 4-way set associative cache requires 4 comparators. Well, 4. Incorrect. 4 indicates the number of sets within the cache, not the number of blocks within a set. That's not what it says right here. It's not what it says right here. Same thing down here. Which block in the cache is replaced by memory block 29? Well, what they're asking right here, they're saying we have a 4-way set associative cache with 8 one-word blocks. What that means is you have a number of sets, each of which consists of 4 blocks, which means you have 2 sets. Each set has 4 one-word blocks. So you've got a sequence of previously accessed block addresses, 5, 13, 21, 13, 5. Notice 3 different addresses, 2 of them get referenced twice. That means there are 3 of your 4 blocks that have memory addresses in them. So whenever you try to put mem29 into the 4th block of the set, because each is referenced to map to cache set 1 out of 2, because you have 2 sets, 4 elements per set, there's an empty space. So we don't have to replace anything. Mem29 can go straight into that unused block. Well, incorrect is what they say. Each element of set 1 is currently occupied. The cache contains 2 elements per set. 8 divided by 4 equals 2. Sequence of previously accessed block addresses shows 3 different accesses to set 1. Okay, not correct. The problem is, if you're just learning this stuff for the first time, as I was when I went through this, and by this point, I'm in chapter 6 here, so I've come across multiple places, lots and lots of places, where I've noticed that the book's wrong, where the book directly has things in the text that are wrong, that are self-contradictory, or that are completely illogical. And so when I run into this, I've got in 2 places here, this is not a typo, this is somebody went out of their way to write this out. So I'm going, okay, is this correct? Does a 4-way set actually mean 4 sets? Or is this correct, that a 4-way set means a number of sets, each of which consists of 4 blocks? The issue is you don't know. So you spend, if you're me, 30 minutes, an hour. I've read over this thing probably 30 times going, what is it saying that I'm not getting? A 4-way set association. And it's just that the book's wrong. So I reported this 3 weeks ago now, 26, 28, something like that. See each of these, there's a little feedback link down here. You can tell them if there's a content error. And I did it every time. And they would typically respond to my email and say, oh, thank you for pointing that out. We'll get that fixed right away. Well, so let's just see. And here it is, 6.4.8. So a 4-way set associative cache with 32 one-word blocks requires blank comparators, right? So let's scroll up. Okay, the implementation of a 4-way set associative cache requires 4 comparators and a 4-to-1 multiplexer. That's pretty clear. 4. Incorrect. They don't fix it. They haven't fixed anything. I've reported numerous things as far back as a month ago because there were also problems in the C++ book. Nothing gets fixed. WGU is not the only school using zybooks. Whenever I run into a problem like this, after poring over it, making sure that I'm not reading something wrong or just calculating something wrong, I always go search the internet and try to find some external source that either validates that I'm correct or proves me wrong or just explains what's correct in the case where the book is just contradictory and I can't figure out what's right and what's wrong, which frequently happened because it would say one thing and then it would say another thing and you don't know what's what. As I search the internet, you find other schools, Colorado State or University of Kentucky or wherever, where they're also using the zybooks material. The thing is, they have professors in their courses who are putting together slideshows and they're lecturing on the zybooks material. So if they do come across errors, they can correct it or point it out or whatever. For us, this is the only material. The course mentors have not read through these books as thoroughly as I did because they still have all these errors and the instructors don't know about most of them. A solid 25%, at least, of the time that I spent studying for computer architecture went to trying to figure out what was going on when the book was wrong, or trying to determine if the book was wrong whenever I was confused about something. Because when the book is consistently wrong, you don't know. If you are confused, you don't know. Maybe you're confused because the book's wrong, maybe you're confused because you're just not getting it, but you don't know what to focus on. Because the book is so consistently wrong, you can't rely on it to be correct, and that's incredibly frustrating. I'm also aware that I'm only able to identify the errors if they are explicitly illogical or blatantly contradictory. So there may well be information in there that I just accepted as true that's actually not true at all. And that's unfortunate, I guess. Annoying? Yes. I proposed as a solution that WGU institute a central repository for course errata, for zybooks errata in particular, because there is so much of it and because they don't correct it in any sort of timely manner that I can see. I propose that either the course instructors go through and pick out what they know, or pick out the errors that have already been identified, or just make it open for student contributions at this point so that going forward students get the benefit of it, and just keep getting shot down. Their response is that zybooks is theoretically supposed to fix this stuff quickly, and so it would take just as long for them to put that repository in place as it would for zybooks to just correct the errors. It's not the case at all, though, because it would take a few minutes to put the repository in place in each course, and then the amount of time that they spend checking whenever students ask them questions about whether or not something's wrong, they could just spend an extra 3.5 seconds to copy and paste into the errata repository. But they don't want to do it, so whatever. That said, some of the other complaints that I've heard about WGU before I started, and just on YouTube videos, other things that I've seen about the material being outdated, I haven't really found that to be the case. Watched one video of a guy who was talking about how they were teaching HTML4. That's certainly not the case anymore. I feel like the material is current. It's just in desperate need of editing. So that's my big rant. It's not bad enough that I'm going to stop doing it. I'm learning a ton. And of course, there is the fact that every time I do come across one of these things and then I spend an hour researching to figure out if I'm right and the book's wrong, I'm probably learning it really well. It's annoying. It wastes a lot of my time, but doesn't waste near as much time as going to a traditional college where I would only be able to do 6 courses in an entire semester. So there's that. What have I got up next? I've got Discrete Math 2 next. I spent the last few days working on taxes. Now that that stuff's all done, I started Discrete Math 2 this morning, and I'm about 25% through that right now. I put in a good 8 to 10 hours a day, if you were curious. Obviously, that 8 to 10 hours a day is not uninterrupted, but I do try to get in a good 8 to 10 hours a day. So, Discrete Math 2. Analyzing algorithm efficiency and what else? Euclidean algorithm. It's about finding primes, prime factorization. It's an interesting course. I've always been fascinated by math. As frustrating as it can be from time to time whenever I do run into errors, and even this Discrete Math book does have more than its fair share of errors, but it is what it is. We roll with it. Keep it moving. So far, I've knocked out 7 courses. I have another 15 to go to finish the degree. If I don't get all this done in one term, I may be upset with myself. You can see I started March 1st. I've got until August 31st to keep working on this stuff. So that is where we are for now. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. If you have any questions, ask. If you would like me to address anything in particular, anything specific about WGU, about any of these courses that I'm going through, or just any questions you want me to answer, ask in the comments, propose anything. I'm open to doing whatever would be entertaining or useful. That's all I got, guys. Adios.